Hey, everybody, this is Brett Ingram, and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today, we're talking with Aaron Witnish, co founder of contentonly.au. He teaches how to create 30 days of content in just 90 minutes, which is obviously super useful and amazing. I'm excited to have him with us today because I know for me, creating content's a lot of work and it's time consuming. And I know that for a lot of people, it's exactly the same thing. They have the same problems. So with that, welcome, Aaron, and thanks a lot for joining us today.
Brett, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Awesome. So, look, I know that you're going to share with us how to create all the content we need, and I want to know it as much as everybody else does. And obviously, to be able to do that in the fastest and easiest way possible. But let me just start off by asking about your background. I'm curious to know, how did you get into content creation or digital marketing in the first place?
It's a long story. I'll try and keep it short for the listeners.
No
But in
worries.
2008, I'm going to say, I got curious about how to sell things online and learn how to set up sales pages, write copy. And back then, you could run a Google ad, get very cheap clicks, sell an information product. So that's where
Yeah.
it kind of started, writing copy for sales pages. And then people knew that I was selling some stuff online that had businesses and said, can you do some basic stuff for us to help us get online, which was a lot harder to do back then. That's how the agency component came about. And then over years of doing sort of end-to-end marketing, where you do the advertising side, the content side, slowly but surely we niched down and we started eliminating parts of the business that were harder to scale, harder to get talent, and stuck in the lane that I'm really most passionate about. And after 14 years, I'm very happy to say that we just specialize in content creation for business owners now, which is really exciting. And I'm very excited to get up in the morning.
That's great. I know from my own experience too. In my own beginning, actually, it was fairly similar in sense. It was about 2007, and in the beginning, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do either. I was a little bit here, a little bit there, and there's something almost magical about having the clarity of the focus of focusing on what you really want to do. Because when you're in that zone where you're passionate about what you're doing, it's fun, and you tend to be really good at those kinds of things. So that's great. And, it's obviously super awesome that you were able to find that and really dive into that and be successful with it. So in your experience, obviously you've seen a lot and you've gone through a lot in terms of content creation. What are the biggest challenges that you think people have, whether it's businesses or individuals, in terms of making content?
The first one is, what do you talk about? Where do you get the content ideas from? That, even if you create content all the time, that tends to be the one you keep circling back to. What do I talk about today? And we'll solve that when we go into it a little bit. The next one is, what format do I create it in? Then it's, how often do I create it? Then it's, where do I post it? When do I post it? What hashtags do I use? Do I use it in an educational format? Do I do it in a monetization format? There's all these overwhelming questions that paralyze creators and business owners into inactivity, and other priorities take over and content gets pushed to the back of the list. So anyone that's in business, I feel the pain, because if you're not a native marketer and content isn't your thing, I can understand why you just don't do it, because all these variables make it very hard to know what to do next.
It's actually funny that you say that, because that's exactly the experience I had when I began doing content. Just to give you a little bit of background, I was not a big social media guy, and it's funny because I've been in the digital space for a long time, and I actually create software tools in a lot of cases that simplify and automate stuff that people have to do. So you would think it would have been a natural fit for me, but in the very beginning, I was concerned like my friends were going to all track me down on my socials and stuff. And then I'd have to explain to them, well, no, this is my business thing. So part of it was that inertia and just the fear of what is going to happen if I actually start to post stuff. But the other part of it is, when I actually decided to do it, I realized that every layer of the onion you peel, there's five more questions about okay, so what do I create, and then where do I post it, and which platforms, and what content do I need for that, and it's become so sort of mature over the years that now it's not just a matter of just throwing anything up there and hoping that it's going to work. So it is totally overwhelming, and to know even like where to focus on and everything else. And to your point about the topics, you know, you can think about a couple of topics right off the top of your head. You're like, oh, this is going to be easy. They'll just run out really fast. And then you're like, oh, no, now what do I do? So for me, I've had a love-hate relationship with content. I love creating it and sharing what I know, but I also hate how much time and work it is to do. So, and one of the biggest challenges is what topics to cover. So what tips or suggestions do you have for how people can find not just stuff that they should post now, but maybe a continuous stream or an ongoing stream of relevant content ideas?
We'll solve this for good so people can get endless content ideas for their niche in under 60 seconds anytime they want them. So if you go to Google and you take a keyword, and I suggest starting with an outcome that you specialize in, let's say it's weight loss, great generic example. If you put that into Google, scroll down a little bit, there's a section that says people also ask, and this is going to give you the queries that your target customers are typing into Google, and it'll give you 4 or 5. But if you click the down icon, it'll keep feeding you question after question. So you might run through that, get a list of ideas, then you might put in dieting tips, and then you're going to get more questions in the people also ask, and you might have home workouts or exercise. You just keep going with different outcomes or applications that you specialize in your niche, and you're going to get endless content ideas on demand all the time, anytime you want them, absolutely free in a matter of seconds. So that's the rapid solution to solving that problem.
That's amazing. You know, I've heard other people talk about ways to generate ideas, and they generally tend to be a lot more complex, complicated, or costly. So that's, I mean, that's $1 million tip right there. I personally didn't even know that. So that, you know, that's a great tip, and I'm sure everyone's going to be very, very excited to know that. You know, I know that one struggle people have is also in terms of content is the balance between quality and quantity. We know because we're always told you've got to get a lot of stuff up there. It's got to be constant. Otherwise, people forget about you. You'll never, you know, people won't find you. At the same time, if you listen to anybody who's successful with content marketing, what they always say is make sure the quality is really good. If the quality isn't good, no one's going to be interested in it. They're going to click off. They're going to think that you don't know what you're talking about. So is the answer to make less content but make it really great? Or should we be cranking out content and hope some of it hits? What's sort of the balance there? How should we approach that?
In the beginning, just start creating content. Quality's not going to be a strong point if it's a new skill. It's just like going running and you haven't done it for 2 years. You're going to get puffed and exhausted 200 meters in. You're going to want to quit. Content's the same. So you just want to get on the field and start playing the game, and you'll start to get feedback about what people respond to, what they don't, and don't worry too much about it, because if you overthink it, again, that inaction will happen. Once you start doing it for a little while, that's when you start to focus on quality. When you start to see this is what people are responding to, let's go into the quality zone in that particular area, and we'll make it better. We'll go into more depth, add more value, etc. Then once you've got quality dialed in, then you start to increase the frequency of the quality content. So there's kind of different stages, and for most people it's generally just getting started, and the quality piece you can layer in over time. As you get more resources, access to more tools, you get better at delivering content. So that's kind of the way I suggest people roll it out.
Yeah, you know, I have to say that's a great tip, because I know when I was starting the podcast, you know, part of the inertia that you have is the fear that maybe your initial stuff isn't going to be good. You want it to be good. But one of the things that I've learned over my, you know, sort of digital marketing career is the fact that you don't ever get better at anything until you start doing it. And if you worry all the time about how good you're going to be in the beginning, you'll never start. My very first 3 months in digital marketing, just as a field, I was learning. And this is, you know, obviously 15 years ago, so things were very different. There wasn't quite as much information everywhere, but and there weren't as many tools. At the same time, what I found was the more stuff I started to learn, the more things there were to learn. And I realized that after 3 months, I was spending money on tools, courses, whatever, and I hadn't really done anything. And so I was like, all I'm really doing is spending money. I'm not making anything. I'm learning a lot, but I'm becoming the smartest, brokest guy in the room because I'm not doing anything. And so I just started to create, and I made an ebook, and now it would be embarrassing to me. But that was the start of the process. And with the podcast, it was the same thing. I'm sure if I went back to my initial few episodes, I'd probably be embarrassed about them. But you can't, when you learn to ride a bike, the first couple of times you get up, you fall, you skin your knee. You don't wait until you know how to ride a bike perfectly to get on it in the first place. So I think it's great advice. And it's certainly, in my experience, been sort of exactly the same thing. And then when you're dropping all those hooks in the water, some of them you're going to see or start to catch the fish. And then you realize, okay, yeah, those are the places I want to keep going and dive deeper. So I have to say I'm very impressed by how succinct you are and direct with your answers. I think it's really refreshing.
Thanks.
And awesome, because it's very actionable and it's very specific and clear. So awesome.
I think when you can give something that's tangible, that really helps. You can talk theory, but we can give a step that someone can then take and implement. That's where some really cool value lies. So hopefully that's what people are getting through this conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now what about content length? Okay, so I know there's also this battle between short and long. Obviously, if you're doing something short, you can only sort of hook people. You can't really give them a lot. But those things tend to be the things I think that get more traction. At the same time, if you want people to know what you can do or really give them stuff, you could give them a little bit longer form content. How should we balance that in terms of short versus long, and how we do that?
Longer form is really hard because you have to hold people's attention for so much longer. So for business owners that don't have much experience with content, I say start with short form. So that way you can build an audience, you can add value, you can get on the radar, and then you can start making longer snippets of content as you go and as you get better at holding the attention. But generally speaking, most people will find it difficult unless they've got pre-established expertise where people would want to listen to them. They've got insane editing skills that can keep the frames moving and hold someone's focus. So in most cases, I recommend people stay with the short form. You will get some quick wins because the algorithm loves short form. You can get reach, you can get traction, even if you don't have followers, even if you don't have existing content. So unless you're podcasting or going down that route, long form is very challenging. So I usually point most business owners to short form and play in that lane for a while before you think of going any longer with it.
Very cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, even with the podcast, I sort of went with short form as far as the podcast goes, because I know for me, even if it's a great podcast or if it's a 2-hour episode, I'm overwhelmed before I even start it. I know I can't finish it in one sitting, so I have to keep breaking it up and coming back. And so I went for something that was more bite-sized in the sense that you could listen to it in the car on your way to work or to your job or whatever, business, and or while you're doing chores around the house or whatever it is. And that way it's simple, it's digestible, and it's something that's very good. I know for my own YouTube channel, which I didn't start that long ago, but it's sort of the short form stuff definitely seems to be getting a lot more traction. So to your point, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I have to ask you about platforms. There's a gazillion platforms out there. And I know one of the struggles for me was which platform is best. I know they all have different sort of niches or different sort of target audiences. But one of the things that I hear a lot is, well, you want to be everywhere, because if you're everywhere, you're going to be able to tap into all those audiences that might not all be on the one platform you're on. At the same time, I've found personally it's really hard to multi-purpose content across all of them. I mean, maybe one or two, but is it first of all, do you have a preference in terms of platform? And second of all, is there a way that we should we build one and then expand to others, or should we try to shotgun it and do them all at once?
Start with your primary platform. So go which has my target customers, has the attention, and usually that's easy to work out because it's where you go to consume content about your business, and it's a platform that you enjoy and probably already have a network or community on. So create content for that platform. I always recommend that if you're doing video as a secondary, you use YouTube and you put your videos on there because it is a search engine, which works very different to a newsfeed, which is more interruption based content, whereas YouTube is search. People are looking for specific content. So you just reverse engineer where your target customer's attention is, what time of the day are they likely to be able to engage and consume on that platform, and that's when you post. And then you can go to a tool like besthashtags.com and put in a keyword like weight loss. That'll give you the hashtags that you can use for your target audience. And by posting to that primary platform at the right time of the day with those hashtags and getting those questions from people also ask on Google, you're going to have a content strategy that's going to appeal to your target audience, which I think is most important. Don't get overwhelmed by going to too many places and trying to spin all the plates, because most of them are going to crash and fall to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I've found, like, particularly like with Instagram, right? It's so curated now that to just throw stuff up there, you aren't going to stand out because it's people have gotten to a point where they've really dialed in exactly how to make it. And so there's a learning curve with each of the platforms anyway. But obviously, it makes sense to start where you know your target customers are. And if it's a platform you're familiar with, you know how it works. So intuitively, it makes it a little bit more makes sense. So, okay, so I got to bring up the V word. Everybody wants to go viral. I laugh because my wife and I laugh together. We watch these TV shows or movies, and when they're trying to get like traction for something or an idea or a cause, there's always one friend that tells another, just post it and do that thing that makes it go viral. Like they could just do it on demand in a couple of clicks, and then all of a sudden they've got 10 million views. Based on your experience, what's the secret to content that goes viral? Is there actually a formula for this, or is it more luck based?
The biggest misconception is viral is good. And if you're an entertainer and you're in that category and everyone's your audience, then yes, viral is a great thing. But if you're a business owner, viral is not good, especially if you're a specialist, because if you go viral, you could be reaching hundreds of thousands of people who have no utility for your product or service, which means the rest of the content and the stuff you put out is probably not relevant. And you're going to be farming through this audience that isn't a fit for what you do. So depth is far more important for business owners. You're much better off getting in front of 10 people that have the problem that your product or service solves than 100,000 people who do not have that utility. So I don't like the word viral when we're talking about business and business owners. However, if you are an entertainer, then absolutely your goal is to reach as many people as possible. And really, it's about entertaining and having a strong opinion and taking a stance on a topic that people want to engage and interact with. And what I would do is, if you want to study how to go viral, look at people that go viral all the time and reverse engineer what they do, because that's a shortcut. If you want to monetize as a business owner, stay in your lane, specialize, focus on reaching target customers, and forget about going viral, because it won't help your business necessarily.
That's fascinating. I have to say, you might be the first person I've ever heard say, don't worry about going viral. Like, it's not always a good thing. But when you say it that way, it makes total sense. Why do you want a giant sea of prospects that then you have to keep qualifying and qualifying? If you're doing anything with paid ads or whatever else there, you're just going to be wasting a lot of money because you're sorting through a bunch of people that aren't interested or don't have a need for what you offer. So that's really great advice. Unique advice. I hadn't heard that one before. So okay, I've got to bring up AI because there's been an explosion in AI. In my space in particular, the digital marketing, like software space, I know a lot of the product launches, a lot of the new products coming out, they're all AI-based tools. They're everywhere, and they obviously make it easy to create content. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's good content. It just means you can create stuff. So what I'm wondering is, from your perspective, is the content you can make with AI useful? Can we really get results with that? Or what role does AI play? Should we be using it in some capacity or not at all?
AI in the wrong hands won't produce great content, which won't help a brand or business. You need to know the fundamentals to be able to train AI to get the right output, which is really, really important. So if you don't know what you're doing and you go to Chat GPT and say, give me 10 LinkedIn posts on weight loss, you're just going to get duplicate content that already exists somewhere online that someone's already posted. And it's not going to position you as an expert or an authority in your niche, because people will be able to tell that it's AI generated. What I'm a big fan of is hybrid. So where can you use AI to increase efficiency? So for example, recording a video like we're doing right now, AI can transcribe that conversation into text, and then we're repurposing authentic human words into content. There are some AI tools that can repurpose an original human video into short form clips like Opus Clip. There's Get Munch. There's a lot of tools like that. You give it a longer video, it'll cut it into shorter videos. So I always say start with original human input. So that way you're authentic and you're not doing something that's already duplicated. And then where can you use the AI tools that can help you speed up the back end process of getting the quality content out? So that's my stance at it. You need a good human driver and original content to start with, and use AI to work from there.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, in my experience, I've actually said, and I've done episodes on this, that I believe that authenticity will be the new currency, because now that we've sort of knocked down all the barriers to literally just creating stuff, that isn't difficult anymore. But what is going to get the traction, what is going to get people to connect with you and resonate with you and your message, is the authenticity element. What is it about you? As great as AI is, it doesn't have experience. It hasn't been through life experiences. It doesn't have a background. So it isn't going to be able to share your personal stories about what it is that, got you to where you are or whatever. And those are the things that draw people in. When you hear somebody else's story, when you know what they've been through. I know from the course of doing interviews, one of the things I love the most is to hear different people's backgrounds, where they came from, what they did, and how they got to where they are. I find that fascinating, and I think a lot of people do. So yeah, I think that's makes a lot of sense with AI. I know for me personally, that's how I use it. Transcription, I use it for as a crutch for different things, but I never use it as the content creator for any of the things that I'm doing. So you mentioned some other tools throughout all of this stuff, and so I want to sort of zero in a little bit on tools. There are a lot of tools out there at this point, AI and otherwise. So what are your go-to tools or for content marketing, or what do you think the tools are that people should be aware of that are out there in the market?
There is so many to look for, and look, the ones we use in our agency are Rev for transcription. So when we have a conversation with a client through our extraction process, we'll then get that transcribed because it's very accurate, and that's so we can repurpose that authentic conversation into text. We do manual editing still. So naturally, AI tools can work out what you're saying and put captions onto the videos, but we'll handcraft that. But if someone didn't have a budget, they didn't have resources, and they couldn't afford an editor, then a tool like Opus Clip or Get Munch could be a starting point where you can take a video. It'll automatically, intuitively cut clips, so you don't have creative discretion. You will have to go in and manually make caption changes, maybe fix it up, take parts out. But it can be a really good low barrier to entry if you don't have the ability to invest in an editor team or other resources. So there are a couple of basic ones. But as an agency, we tend to stick to some very basic tools, but always lean in with that original human input as the starting point.
Makes total sense. So I know that you have, and this is the moment we've all been waiting for. I know that you have the 30 days of content in 90 minutes system, which, just from the title, obviously you guys know what you're doing because that's a great title, and it makes everybody want to know what it is. So can you tell us specifically, tell us about it, like what it is, how can people get it?
So I'll walk you through the steps in the process and how the system works, and it's free at our website, contentonly.au, if you want to see a tutorial of walking through it being done. But we start with the research. So that's the question. So what are your target customers typing into Google? What are they typing into YouTube? We'll go and get spreadsheets for these questions. We go, which ones are going to add the most value to your audience? And we'll extract roughly 12 a month. What we do is we then get our client into a conversational approach like we're doing right now on video. We usually do it via Google Meet because it puts the recording straight into the cloud. And we'll just go through and have a casual conversation, ask them the questions so they're the most authentic version of themselves. When we remove scripts, when we remove looking down the camera, they're the most natural and we get the best content versus feeling very forced and doing take after take. So they'll have that conversation with us. Then we have editors that will go and cut a piece of content for each of those questions that we were targeting from our research step that we got from our spreadsheet that the customers are searching for. Then we do the branding part. This is where we put the company branded captions on, the fonts, all that sort of thing. So it's unique to their business and it can't be replicated somewhere else. We take the interview and then we get it transcribed using AI with rev.com. And then we repurpose that transcription into written posts as well. So at the end of that conversation, we're able to get 12 videos, for example, for each of those target questions, 12 written pieces of content using Rev and then repurposing the writing. And by our business owners showing up for 30 to 60 minutes for that conversation, that's their part done. And then all that content for the next 30 days is generated on the back end. So that's essentially the model that we use to do the 30 days in 90 minutes.
That's very cool because not only are you creating a lot, but it is unique to the business. It is unique to them. So it's not going to be duplicated or the same as what anybody else is doing. So you can see how you'd be able to build real traction with your own brand, your own voice, and all those kinds of things as well. So that's awesome. I mean, it's amazing that you guys were able to sort of zero in on the system like that. But I mean, that's what you get when you're passionate about something, you're focused on it, and that's what you're doing. You find ways to keep refining and keep honing it until you get to a point of as close to perfection as you can, you know? So that's awesome. And so if people want to connect with you, and I'm going to give them the information again in terms of where to get that, but where else can we find you? If somebody wanted more information, they want to connect with you, are you on socials, I assume, and things like that? Where else can we find you?
I'm pretty easy to find. Aaron Witnish, there's not too many of them floating around. It's not like a John Smith. So you'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube. They're the easiest ways to get in touch. So you can follow me there, send me a message, say hi. And like we said before, if you want to download the system that I just mentioned, just go to contentonly.au. It's completely free. And there's a tutorial and I walk you through each of the steps that I mentioned so you can see how to execute it if you want to do it yourself.
Awesome. And I think everybody can tell from the fact of the way that you are in with this conversation, I'm quite sure that it's a very step-by-step, simple system that's really well laid out, thought out, and executed perfectly. So no doubt about that. So my last question that I always have to ask is, in your particular case, what's the number one tip for people when they're creating content?
Being authentic, because then no one can duplicate that. And bringing the human side, as you were saying before, is really, really important in a world that's going to be littered with AI and synthetic content. Being yourself, being authentic, being human is a connection piece. We're herd creatures. We crave connection. So if you can bring that to your content, to your brand, to your business, you're going to stand out. And that's going to be the key to success moving forward. So do you be authentic, and there will be people that resonate with that. And that's your tribe. That's your audience. Don't try and to appease to the masses, because that's just a recipe for disaster.
Awesome. Very good. So with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you again, Aaron, for sharing all of your insights and great tips with us. Go to contentonly.au to download a free copy of the 30 Days in 90 Minutes Content Creation System. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, remember, no matter what you want from your business and your life, don't compromise, optYOUmize.